everybody. Welcome to this super fun Forks Friday Live. Happy Friday to all of you. If you can feel extra smiles coming your way, it's because of, I think it's this guy over here. If he's over there, that's fine. But we are so excited to have this special guest on. Welcome to everyone joining from wherever you are. Please let us know where you are tuning in from. We want to know. I'm going to drop a couple locations for you right now as I introduce our special guest. The name is there, but I'm going to make it a little bit mysterious, at least, if you don't recognize his face just yet. Our special guest grew up on a farm in Corvallis, Oregon, where he adopted a vegan lifestyle in 1995 at age 15. At that time, just weighing 120 pounds. We're going to find out about the journey along the way. Today, he is the author of the books Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness, Shred It, Plant-Based Muscle, the New York Times bestseller, The Plant-Based Athlete, and his latest, which is coming out later this month, June 25th, The Impactful Vegan. He is often referred to as the godfather of vegan bodybuilding, growing the industry from infancy in 2002 to where it is today. And as a natural bodybuilding champion, he is considered one of Veg News magazine's most influential vegan athletes. Wherever you live, you've probably seen him because he tours all around the world, sharing his story of his transformation from a skinny farm kid to a champion vegan bodybuilder. He is the founder of Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness and maintains the website, a regular contributor to yours truly, forksoverknives.com. You've probably read one of his articles on our website. He's a former multi-sport athlete. He's followed a plant-based diet for more than 28 years. He lives in Colorado with his wife and his two rescue chihuahuas, and he is here today to talk with all of us. Of course, I'm Steven, your customer success manager, but this is Robert Cheeke. Welcome, Robert, to this Forks Friday.
Steven, it is so great to be here with you today. You're one of my favorites. I even wore my collard greens today. So nice. I am starting Forks Friday off with my nitric oxide and my greens, and I'm ready for that.
Excellent. Well, I got the fork ready for your collard greens right here with our old school Forks Over Knives shirt, which I know you wear when you travel and are on the road and all the other places.
I had it on last week. I'm glad we didn't match today, although that would have been epic.
Oh, if only we had planned this better. No, it is going to go as perfectly as possible because everyone is here, and Robert is not only are you one of the most positive people that I know in my life, but you are a wealth of knowledge, of experience, and I think that everyone who tunes in today is going to get a lot out of what you have to share. This is so exciting.
Well, thank you so much. And largely that's just because I've been doing this for a while, Stephen. I've been vegan since the late 1900s. So I've got experience on my side. I have followed all different versions of a plant-based diet. I actually worked in the Forks Over Knives office and helped launch the film in 2011. I went on tour with heroes of mine, Dr. T. Colin Campbell and Caldwell B. Esselstyn Jr., MD, and they changed my life. And so did Forks Over Knives. Honestly, I mean, that's where my book Shred It came from, a whole food plant-based diet to building your body. And that was endorsed by Campbell and Esselstyn and Brian Wendell. And that was, honestly, a massive turning point in my life and in my nutrition program and in my ability to write books and tour around the world. I have to give a shout out and give credit because Forks Over Knives opened up so many doors for me. And I still rep the t-shirt when I travel. Like you said, I've had it for almost a decade and a half now. Must be good material. It hangs tight. So yeah, man, I'm just happy to be here.
And we're so happy to have you. We have Deborah from Malvern, Pennsylvania, Victoria from South Setauket, New York. We have Kay from Ohio, Linda from Missouri. We have some Southern Californians in the house, some Northern Indianans in the house. And please feel free to chat. Let us know where you're coming from. Robert, while I want to get into your story, because I think what is so important, influential, and transformational for people to know is about this 120-pound skinny kid who turned into a champion vegan bodybuilder. We talk a lot about the health benefits of a plant-based diet. And there's still so many misconceptions, of course, when we talk about some of the macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fat. I first do want to share that not only is your story transformational for everyone, but I have to say that you were in my story very, very early. I met Robert back in 2010, within my first year of going plant-based vegan. I met him at a screening in New York City and then moved to Los Angeles, where we became fast friends. Robert was indeed the social media community manager at Forks Over Knives right after the film launched. And sure enough, just shortly after that, when Robert was ready to take vegan bodybuilding and fitness even bigger, better, wider spread, there was an opening for that social media community manager, and yours truly stepped right into that position. So Robert, you were there in my first couple of years of veganism, of plant-based lifestyle, and ultimately you handed off the baton as I moved into Forks Over Knives. So it's amazing now to take a look in 2024, how far the plant-based movement has come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was even there at your birthday party too. And I appreciate the friendship when we were both in the same town, doing the same things, trying to make a difference in the world by encouraging people to adopt a plant-based diet and live more compassionately. So always appreciate you, and thank you for your kind words and for taking that baton and running with it. And look at where Forks Over Knives is now. It is really the authority in plant-based nutrition, whole food diet, with all the media, all the social platforms, all the best-selling books. I mean, people forget it started with a film because the cooking school, the app, all that stuff. In fact, I don't know if you know this, Stephen, I wrote about Forks Over Knives in my new book, The Impactful Vegan. I call this the Forks Over Knives effect, the impact that Forks Over Knives has had on society, on changing nutritional habits, on changing behaviors, and on creating behavioral patterns that lead to more compassionate and sustainable living. Basically, what I mean by that is Forks Over Knives created the information, the resources, the tools, and the community for sustained habit change. I mean, how many people, going back to my story a little bit, how many people set off on this goal they plan to achieve, a New Year's resolution, a fitness goal, a health goal? I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to build muscle. I'm going to change my diet. And unfortunately, it doesn't sustain itself. It fizzles out sometime around mid-January. They say, you know what, give me 11 and a half months. I'm going to try it again for the next new year. Yeah. And studies show, and research data reveals that many of us, maybe not you and I, Stephen, but or many people listening here, but collectively as a society, many of us have the same New Year's resolution for 10 consecutive years before we decide, you know what, it's not working for me. But Forks Over Knives has the ability to change that. And that's what I've always loved about Forks Over Knives and the community, is that you provide resources. And as long as food is tasty, affordable, convenient, healthy, makes us feel good, it's accessible in our houses, in our freezers, refrigerator, pantry, then we create these habit changes. And obviously we are the sum of our habits. That's what defines us. That's
absolutely who we are.
What we do, what we eat, how we live. So yeah, I'm grateful for the impact Forks Over Knives had on me, and I've been honored to write about that influence in my books.
And we're going to take that Forks Over Knives effect that impacted you and then allow your impact to then ripple back to everyone else. Everyone, Robert has his new book, The Impactful Vegan, which is coming out later this year. We're going to talk about it more in a little bit. There it is. You see the book, you see the muscle. I want everyone to get a chance to get a heads up, a little sneak preview of this. So while you're in the comments, please write the word strong. Write that word strong, just like Robert, just like all of us who have the strength to adopt a lifestyle. Oh my gosh, you're breaking the feed, Robert, with those muscles. But all of us who have the strength, that endurance to be able to step into a lifestyle that has so many benefits, from the personal to the global, which we'll be talking about. So please write the word strong. We're going to send you a special impactful vegan guide. This is straight from Robert Cheeke. We'll be doing a little preview today talking about the strong V, but this guide is going to have some extra details. It's your own personal worksheet in a way to really tap into your why. Why are you adopting this specific lifestyle, and how can you use it to benefit yourselves and benefit others. So please, let's see some strong in there. I got to say, Robert, my mom is watching us from Lower Makefield, Pennsylvania. Hi, Mom.
I love it. I love it. Hey, Mom.
There we are. There we are. So, Robert, let's get into what I know everyone is aware of when it comes to the Forks Over Knives effect, the Forks Over Knives website. We obviously have all of that dietary nutritional information. So can you talk a little bit more from a dietary perspective, especially from your journey, from where you were to where you are now? People talk about protein. Where do you get your protein? And carbs. Carbs are bad. Carbs will make you fat and all of that. So with your journey and learning more about this and then applying it to becoming a vegan champion bodybuilder, can you share a bit more of that perspective for others who might still have a bit of those misconceptions of being able to be healthy and strong on a whole food plant-based diet?
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Let's go back to the beginning because I think that's foundational and fundamental. I grew up on a farm. I raised animals and sold them at the auction to be turned into someone's meal. I believed this milk does a body good and drank as much milk as I possibly could. I watched the commercials. I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s, and I saw those commercials that the guy's voice would get deeper and he'd get bigger and stronger and milk does a body good and all of that. I bought into that. I was always a small kid. I weighed 89.25 pounds in 8th grade before going into high school, barely weighed 100 pounds on my high school basketball team the freshman year. Sophomore year, when I became vegan on December 8th, 1995, I weighed 120 pounds. But my favorite foods were eating chicken and eating pigs, eating bacon. Those were kind of my favorite things. And then I got turned on to veganism by my older sister who introduced it to me. And I was skeptical. I was a 5-sport athlete in high school. I mean, I had aspirations of being a college athlete and maybe even being a pro athlete. I wanted to build my body and I wasn't sure that I would be able to with plants. And then I recognized the number one, at least back then, perhaps, back in the late 1900s, the number one objection to veganism was this concern about getting enough protein. Yeah. That was a concern my parents had. Even they worked in the animal science department at Oregon State University. They're very educated on the subject of nutrition, and they still were concerned about my nutritional intake, whether I would get enough nutrition, adequate nutrition to even survive on a plant-based diet. That was a legitimate concern, especially as I grew up in an agriculture community. And so what I set out to do, Stephen, and this is unequivocally true. This is, and you know this, and hopefully a lot of people know this, and some will be hearing about it for the first time. But I set out to show people, like that was my mission. I wanted to show people that I could build my body without consuming animal protein, with a desire that if I could do it, and I was just mostly focusing on showing my high school teammates and those in my regional geographical community. I wanted to show people that I could do it, and that would inspire other people to believe that they could do it too, and to leave animals off their plates and to live more harmoniously with those around us and be kinder to the planet and the environment. And so I set out to do it. I had some stumbling blocks along the way. I had to learn a lot of things about nutrition and calorie density and nutrient density and protein, carbohydrates, and fats and sports supplementation. And I learned those things along the way. And I'll tell you, Stephen, once I figured it out, it was game over. I mean, I tried to gain muscle at first, and after an entire year, I gained 1 pound. I mean, this was, so it was like, okay, maybe this isn't working for me. But then I stumbled upon the Body for Life program. I know it's a little old school. That was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But basically what that was all about was about accountability and transparency and consistency. And it was about working out 5 or 6 days a week and eating 3 big meals a day and 3 smaller meals a day to get adequate calorie intake based on what your goals were. Stephen, I put on 19 pounds in 12 weeks. Another 10 pounds after that or so. I put on 28 pounds in 10 months, another 10 pounds after that the next year, and became a champion bodybuilder as a vegan 2 years later. And I know that's not exactly the American dream to put on 100 pounds like I did, which I understand. But I was trying to silence the critics. I was trying to show by example, by living example, that I could build my body with a plant-based diet, to give people confidence and permission that they could do the same. And look what it did. It opened up all sorts of doors. I wrote a bunch of books on the subject. I filmed a documentary on the subject. I went on tour for 20 years about it. And we can get into some of the nuances if you want. But I just want
I think what's great about that, Robert, and one of the key tenets that you shared is living by example, showing by example, right? And that's why it is so exciting to have you on here, people watching and being able to go, oh my gosh, he's talking about it. He lived it. I'm seeing it. And there's something about that that connects a little bit more. Articles, books, documentaries, all of these things are incredibly impactful ways to connect with people. And sometimes even so, being able to hear it from someone directly who has lived it, there's something else that clicks. And so besides sharing all of your specific life experience, if you were to give a couple of either quick tips or advice or even some information regarding some of those misconceptions that I think a lot of people have of, I still don't know how I can get enough protein, or am I eating too many carbs? When it comes to health and fitness, what are some of the baseline foundational guidances that you would pass along to people to break through those misconceptions?
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. And I've seen this for 30 years now, people struggling in different ways, either to get the right amount of calorie intake or to get the right amount of protein or understand where it comes from. At the end of the day, Stephen, the bottom line is that if you reach your true calorie needs, which you can figure out using the Harris-Benedict calculator, which factors in your gender, age, height, weight, and very importantly, your activity level. I'll pause for a moment. People can search Harris-Benedict calculator or Harris-Benedict equation. That gives you a starting point. Most people have no idea how many calories they expend per day. Therefore, they don't know how many to consume per day. And I'm not suggesting that everybody count calories every day of your life, but what I'm saying is, Stephen, one of the most important things you can do, period, to learn about yourself is to document your food intake for 3 to 5 days or even a week. You will learn so much about yourself. You have no idea right now, most people listening, how much caffeine you consume, alcohol you consume, chocolate you consume, processed foods, oil, whatever, or how many bananas you consume, or avocado, or leafy greens. Or I have often said in my presentation, sometimes, I've been vegan for 30 years almost, but the last time I had a salad was back in August. That's a reminder that even though I've been doing this for a long time, I need to learn about myself. That's how I learned that I've been lifetime drug and alcohol free, but I was addicted to caffeine, and it took documenting to realize that. I was drinking yerba mate, all day long. I've been caffeine free since 2018, but it took documenting that. I was being interviewed by Chef AJ, and she was asking me about my daily diet and all that, and I had records of all of it, and I was very proud to show it to her and talk about it on her podcast some years ago. But then I realized I didn't have very many leafy greens there. I was focusing on the very positive benefits of fruits and legumes and grains and all of that. But
missing one whole other thing.
I was missing it, even though I had been doing this lifestyle for decades. And so that's one thing, Stephen, if you find out what your true nutritional needs are and calorie needs, and you meet those needs, you will almost by default consume enough protein and reach your protein needs, because we only need 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. For inactive people, we need 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight for active people. Those are easy to reach, and this will blow your mind. I'm gonna leave you with this last one here on this topic. Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready. Are you ready? Is everyone ready? Let's go.
Yeah. So I've been the biggest and strongest I've been in general over the last decade. I've weighed between 200 and 215 pounds or so. And I have not used any protein powders or sports supplements in over a decade. And that is precisely because of my role with Forks Over Knives. When I worked with Forks Over Knives, I tossed it all away. All the protein powders, all the sports supplements, all of that. I took Dr. Campbell's plant-based nutrition course through Cornell University. I challenged a lot of his ideas about protein, and I realized that he's been studying it longer than I've been alive. And I decided to put it to the test. And I am down a little bit now. I just did a fat loss program, but that was very effective. I dropped about 25 pounds deliberately. After being over 200 pounds for a decade, I wanted to lean out last year, and I did very effectively. So I'm about 195 right now. But all these years, Stephen, I've been the biggest and strongest I've been without the sports nutrition and without an emphasis on a high protein diet, because I know the Andy score, the aggregate nutrient density index. I know nutrient density and calorie density, and I know the benefits of legumes and fruits and vegetables, and looking at foods that are high in antioxidants, high in nitric oxide, high in fiber, high in what we call a nutritional return on investment, which is
high
basically
nutrient density. Yeah.
whole foods, but it's also specific whole foods. It's
Sure.
so what's the biggest bang for your buck? Well, I wrote a 35-page paper on that, and it turns out to be, drum roll, it's the mighty lentil. Mighty lentil. It provides the most nutrition per dollar spent, or even per penny spent. Yeah, it provides the most overall nutrition per cost. The other foods.
That's amazing. And so it sounds like, Robert, that initial foundational approach of let me learn myself best, right? As far as tracking calories, nutrients, and such. Is it something that someone needs to do for their entire life, or is it a great place to start? And once they have a good idea of the foods they are consuming, it'll help them then decide, okay, now I can structure everything with those fruits, vegetables, whole grains, those lentils, beans, other legumes, potatoes, nuts, seeds, and beyond.
Do it for a week, Stephen. I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why. Let me give you a few numbers here. I'll rattle them off quickly.
Yeah.
The average adult American today consumes 3,540 calories per day. 80% of Americans eat fast food once per week. 37% of Americans eat fast food every single day. 20% of Americans, 1 in 5, report to eating at least one meal in their car, often indicative of a fast food meal or convenience or highly processed meal. And what I'm also about to say, Stephen, is not to offend or body shame anybody at all. It's to sound the alarm that with all those numbers I just gave, we also have 73.6% of Americans currently overweight, 42.5% who are obese. And again, I've been both. Believe it or not, even though I was a skinny farm kid, I've been injured as a 200-pound bodybuilder, kept eating like a bodybuilder, even though I wasn't training. I've been clinically obese. This is not to body shame anyone. It's to say that our system is not working. We have a system of, we used to talk about a 2,000 calorie diet back in the day. Now this is by the United Nations, 3,540 calories per day for the average American. It's no wonder. I mean, the numbers add up. No wonder 73.6% of us are overweight and almost half of us are obese. But the reason that's important is because, as you know, and as the Forks Over Knives community knows, there's many underlying conditions tied into obesity, increased likelihood of type 2 diabetes, of cancer, of heart disease, of clogged arteries, of stroke, of hypertension. These are real things. I mean, I lost my best friend during COVID due to obesity and diabetes. And then on his 10th day of COVID, it took his life. I lost 2 of my uncles who only ate processed foods. They were single guys, lived at home, didn't even have food in their own homes. They would just go out to restaurants every day. One had a heart attack, died in his sleep. The other one didn't experience a single day of retirement. Both died relatively early in their early 70s, where the average American lifespan is up to between 76 and 78 these days. This speaks to our current health crisis
system overall. Yeah,
that we need to change what we eat. And so I tackle that in my new book, The Impactful Vegan. Yes, the title is about how to be the most effective vegan you can be. But Stephen, I don't know about your spending habits, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that you don't buy 6 new pairs of shoes a day, or 6 belts a day, or 6 wallets a day, or 6 jackets a day. But what you do is sit down to eat about 6 times a day. Sure. Even those who say we 3 meals a day, there's a lot of snacking and grazing going on.
It is one of the things that everyone does pretty much every day. Yeah.
Just like your shirt. It's what we put on the end of our fork makes a massive implication and difference on our planet, on the animals, and on our personal health. And so that's why I talk about the Forks Over Knives effect. If we can change our nutritional habits, guess what we do? We change supply and demand in the marketplace. We get to a tipping point. We change the food that's available in restaurants and in grocery stores, and we can vote with our dollars and make those plant-based options easier and more accessible. And I've witnessed this for decades. I've been around all the legends in the movement, all the doctors and registered dietitians and heroes of mine. I've watched positive change happen through Forks Over Knives and through all the projects that have come after Forks Over Knives opened up those doors. You and I have seen it. I've experienced it for myself. I'm in my mid 40s now and in some of the best shape I've ever been in with over a decade removed from sports nutrition, because I have a better understanding of the nutritional return on investment that I get from a whole food plant-based diet. I know exactly what I'm going to get from. That's why I choose the dark pigment fruits for higher antioxidants, the darker leafy greens for more nitric oxide and more antioxidants and more overall nutrition. I know that 97% of Americans don't consume enough fiber. And so I follow a Dr. Bolsowitz approach of 30 plants per week and adding as many as I can.
Yes.
If we can understand these fundamentals, Stephen, we are on a path to incredible success, and we can inspire others by, like you said, leading by example.
By example. And it's such a beautiful thing to know that this same whole food plant-based diet, whether we're talking about heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, even specific weight conditions, if we're talking about using it for fitness, to build muscle, to get into shape, to do whatever we want, it is the same whole plant foods that we can use. So we already see an immense ripple effect of benefits personally from adopting the same diet. No matter what our intentions are, it leads us towards the health we want. I would love to dive in a little bit more, especially since we're talking about strong. And please, if you haven't in the comments yet, write the word strong. We're going to send you a special guide from Robert Cheeke, a little worksheet from his impactful vegan book. Strong V is something that you mention in this book, an acronym, which is perfect for talking about this movement and talking about personal choices and decisions that we can make to benefit ourselves, but also allow for a ripple effect to have an even greater benefit to those around us and the world around us. Now, I know people could read the book and take a ton of time, just like a semester in school, reading through everything that Strong V has to do. And I encourage you to do it when we talk about the book later. Can you give us a little summary of what Strong V represents and how people can incorporate those actions into their lives?
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. I've always focused on effectiveness in my advocacy for veganism, for health, wellness, for a plant-based diet. I've always had impact and effectiveness on my mind. Yeah. And so I came up with this acronym Strong V, which stands for leveraging our skills, talents, resources, other strengths, network, generosity, and volunteering. You are so much more talented than you think you are. You are better connected than you know you are. You have more resources at your disposal than you could ever imagine. You have inherent talents that you were just born with. And then you have skills that you learned throughout your life. And you can deploy these to help promote veganism. I know I'm a gifted writer. I'm one of the best in the business, and I know that. My father wrote 15 books. I'm sure some of that is deoxyribonucleic acid. I got some DNA passed down. I'm a gifted writer. My last book, The Plant-Based Athlete, thanks to, in part to Forks Over Knives, became a New York Times bestseller, a #1 international bestseller. It's translated into 9 languages worldwide. I know that I'm a better writer than I was an athlete, than I've been as a public speaker or other things. And so I make writing a central part of my focus. But some people are gifted as hosts and interviewers. Some people are gifted as photographers or filmmakers or chefs or programmers or welders or carpenters or whatever it is. And you can actually use a lot of those skills to help promote veganism, and whether that's volunteering, like your literal strength of carrying hay bales and buckets at an animal sanctuary or animal rescue, or using your knowledge that you learned as an engineer to help promote a plant-based diet within a certain sector, or use your connections with the manager that you know over at the restaurant down the street to incorporate a plant-based by default approach and get more plant-based items on the menu. I give examples all throughout the book to use and leverage our Strong V, which is basically know thyself. It's knowing what you're great at and embracing what you're great at. And don't sweat the small stuff. There's a lot of things that I'm terrible at, Stephen. At most things I'm bad at. I barely know how to use a computer.
You're here. You did it. You made it.
I did. But because I know what I'm really good at, I'm really good at in-person tours. I've been traveling almost every single weekend for, it seems like, months now, promoting The Impactful Vegan. In every city I go to, it shoots up to #1 on the Amazon bestseller list.
Wow.
I know, because I am the smiling thumbs up guy. I am the guy who built his body on an entirely plant-based diet. I do lead with positivity. I know that about myself. I'm really good at in-person events. And so that's why I take myself on tour and fundraise to make that happen, because everywhere I go, Stephen, I say this with incredible gratitude, not with ego. But I hear people say, you know, you changed my life, or because of your book, I've been plant-based for 8 years now, or I never believed that I could build my body, but I saw your photos before and after, and you did it, and it gave me confidence I could do it. I know that about myself, Stephen. I'm not very good with technology and social media and other areas of tech advancement. I
many other strengths that you have.
Yeah, and I hate to admit it to this audience here, so close your eye or cover your ears, everyone. I barely know how to make a recipe. Yeah, I've been plant-based for 30 years, but it doesn't mean I'm a whiz in the kitchen. And I'm very fortunate. My wife is very great. She makes most of our meals. She's contributed recipes to my books. She whipped up a meal for me last night after a 90-minute workout, because I know I'm really good in the gym and I can represent veganism so well. I wear it on my sleeve, but I'm not very good in the kitchen. So I don't write cookbooks, but I'm very good at motivating and inspiring people. And those are just things that I'm good and bad at as examples, but everybody has those.
Everybody does. Yeah.
Yes.
And that motivation and inspiration, Robert, is you don't know the effect that it has, right? The whole pay it forward. You can change one person's life who could then go on to change another person's life, who could then go on to change 10 people's lives. For a quick story, even on my end for inspiration, after I went plant-based, my mom went plant-based, and one of the restaurants that her and my father would always frequent, the owner was having some major health issues. And she shared forks over knives with the owner, who then dove into the documentary, dove into the website, changed his entire lifestyle, and added a full plant-based menu to the restaurant. And that was just from one conversation, a genuine conversation out of love and sharing of, I want the best for you. How can I help give you information, inspiration, and motivation to benefit your health? And now we have someone who is benefiting so many other people's health just by changing a menu at a restaurant. And isn't that exactly what you're talking about with Strong V?
Yeah, exactly. And I even share a similar story in the book as well, of getting plant-based menu items listed at restaurants that didn't previously have them, or supporting the ones that are currently there. I mean, when we ask ourselves, and I see it on social media all the time, people say, oh, I'm so bummed this vegan restaurant closed, or this plant-based restaurant closed, or whatever. Ask ourselves preemptively, what can we do to support this establishment if we want to keep this in our community? Take your friends there, especially if you take non-vegan friends and family. It's almost guaranteed that they otherwise would have consumed animals on their plate. But now, because you take them to a vegan establishment, or a plant-based one, or a plant-based friendly one that has plant-based menu items that you encourage them to support because they're there with you and whatever the conversation may lead to, that makes a difference. And not just for the animals that are being spared, but also, as we know, of protecting their health. I don't want to have to list all the family members. I come from a farming background. All the family members that I've lost, or friends that I've lost due to early mortality because of diet and lifestyle related diseases. We all have those stories. It's not for anyone to feel sad about me. We all have lost loved ones far too soon, where some sort of intervention probably could have made a difference in prolonging their lives, or in improving the quality of their lives. And there's enough data from so many of the wonderful plant-based and other doctors in the world, and researchers and registered dietitians and other experts, to know that this really does work. And we have decades of research on this, that a plant-based diet is, as Dr. Greger says, the best thing that we can do to prevent and perhaps reverse some of our chronic degenerative diseases. And it should be, as Greger says, the default diet, until proven otherwise.
And so we have this pathway that's available to us. Knowing your why is so important. I know you talk about that in the book. But if we can answer that, if we can just find our why, whether it is for preventing or reversing chronic disease, whether it's for losing weight, improving athletic performance, whether it's for expanding our circle of compassion with more intentional ethical actions, whether it's for environmental and sustainable considerations, or even supporting friends and family in their journeys, We're learning that it is the same pathway through this plant-based lifestyle, really based in whole foods, that provides this empowering pathway to physical, mental, emotional, communal, global health overall.
Yeah, and I want to add something, Stephen. You touched on it. You hit the nail on the head earlier, and I didn't get a chance to acknowledge it. You mentioned it's the same diet for preventing or reversing disease. It's the same diet for athletic performance. And you're right. All it is tweaking the calorie intake or protein intake a little bit, which is understanding calorie density and nutrient density. Therefore, you know which macronutrients to boost up a little bit or change the quantity of consumption. So if I'm trying to gain weight, it's still gain muscle. It's still the same plant-based diet. I just do more calories, or focus a little bit more on tofu and some of the higher protein foods, edamame, lentils, whatever, nuts, nut butters. If I want to lose weight, I just eat less, but it's eat less of the same thing. It's the same foods, and you can tweak them a little bit if you want to. Boost your antioxidant content, your vitamin mineral content, your fiber content, your water content through water-rich foods. You can play around with that. But the important thing to know is that it is the same diet. And we've seen that in my previous book, The Plant-Based Athlete, when it comes to expediting recovery, reducing inflammation, and speeding up the recovery process. I interviewed 60 of the world's greatest plant-based athletes. I'm talking Olympic medalists, world champions, Guinness World Record holders, professional athletes. Almost every single person without exception said the same thing, whether they had been plant-based for decades or even just for a few years. They all said their recovery got better. Why is that, Stephen? Well, what happens when you stop eating pro-inflammatory foods and you start consuming anti-inflammatory foods? I mean, it's just the math adds up. It's easy for us to step back and look at it objectively and realize, oh, that's why that works. Or if you want more energy, well, then eat a higher energy diet, a high complex carbohydrate diet that provides energy, or high quality omega-3, 6, 9 essential fats, which again is effective and efficient source of energy. If you're looking to boost a little bit of muscle recovery, after a workout, then increase your protein intake a little bit, which doesn't mean that you need to take pills, powders, and potions. It means add a little bit of tofu to your burrito.
The mighty lentil, right?
Put some walnuts on your oatmeal, add some hemp seeds to your salad, add some kidney beans and garbanzo beans to your plate of leafy greens. It's those decisions, and you make those little decisions, and it makes a difference. It's like whether you're going out for a walk or for a run. If you're training for a 5K or training for a marathon, you train a little bit differently, right? You're going to put in a little bit extra mileage if you're going for the long distance, the half marathon or the full marathon. It's the same thing in nutrition. You just change it based on what your particular goals are. And if you are consistent, which I've often said, maybe other than the word love, is the most important word in the world. If you are consistent in whatever action it is, that is the only way to get to fat loss or muscle gain or reducing inflammation or improving whatever condition you're trying to improve. It is through consistent action, day after day of showing up. One example outside of this world, real quick, Stephen. If you've ever wanted to write a book, for example, the best thing you can do, the advice that I got, now I've written 6 books, and this is advice I got before I wrote any book, was to write 2 pages every day. This person told me, he's president of a university, David Schleich. He said, Robert, I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. You write 2 pages every single day, and soon you've written a book. That's the same in nutrition. You eat 2 servings of greens, 2 servings of fruit every day. It doesn't have to be 2. That's just the number that I was given. And I didn't write 2 pages a day. I wrote 18 pages some days, 25 pages some days, 9 pages some days. But the idea is exactly. It's small incremental steps to forward progress, which is called the Kaizen way, or the Kaizen system, which I wrote about in the book. It's always incremental, small incremental steps toward forward progress. Why, Stephen, does forks over knives work so well and lead to lower levels of recidivism? It's because it's small incremental steps toward forward progress rather than overhaul overnight, rapid, New Year's resolution kind of change that's overwhelming for us. That's not sustainable. What's sustainable is getting the information, the resources, the tools, putting them into practice, having community support, having people to lean on, the ability to learn more, having the tools at your disposal. And all of a sudden, I mean, I've seen the success stories, Stephen. Come on, give me a break.
They're all over the place. Absolutely.
So many success stories from Forks Over Knives. And you can say, well, I don't care about anecdotes. I care about research. Well, it's because of the data. It's because of the evidence-based nutrition that people are having these kind of results. And then the results speak for themselves. And I'm lucky that I'm one of those people, that I went from
Absolutely. And to know that all of this information is coming from the Forks Over Knives website, that is coming from your amazing books. And if we can take each of these little bits, the strongest action might just be taking any action and then adding that again. That's where the consistency comes in. The nutrition that we are incorporating into our own lives. Also, whether it is an awareness that you have or not, and I think you will have a greater awareness when you check out Robert's book, The Impactful Vegan, whether you have that awareness or not right now, if you are making that choice with a plant-based lifestyle for yourself, the extra benefits just happen to also be immense when it comes to extending compassion, saving lives, and for this beautiful planet that we live on, making sure that we are taking the best care of it. Please write strong in the comments if you want a little sneak preview of Robert's book, The Impactful Vegan, coming out on June 25th. Robert, in order for people to get started with pre-orders, which are so important, they want to get their books first. You all want to get your books first, trust me. Can they go to impactfulvegan.com? Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. Thank you again. Impactfulvegan.com. Not only can you find out where to pre-order the book, and this is by far the best book I've written, and I mean that sincerely, better than my New York Times bestseller. This is the best that I have to offer, the best work I've ever done. As you can see, you'll find where to buy it, but also you can download a sample of the introduction plus chapter 1, totally for free. Get a 31-page PDF. It's just further down there on the page. You'll see endorsements from Rich Roll and Carly Bodrug and Tabitha Brown and Dan Booker.
Oh, great endorsements.
News, Kathy Freston, everybody has gotten behind this book. Ocean Robbins there, even Def Leppard.
Wow.
And you can download a sample PDF of chapter 1 and 2. And also, true with many other book launches, we've got hundreds of dollars worth of pre-order bonuses, which are ebooks and courses by me and Chef AJ and Drina Burton and Tim Kaufman and many people that folks in the audience knows and loves. So if you want extra resources from me, Chef AJ, Tim Kaufman, Drina Burton, Ella Majors, so many others, please go to impactfulvegan.com. Honestly, this is the best work that I've done. I'm so proud of it. And
congratulations on all of that, Robert.
What a journey.
It is a journey. It's an inspiration. And I'm so excited for people to read this book and learn more about your journey and also that ripple effect of how those choices, those strong choices for themselves and or for whatever reasons have such a strong impact all the way around. Besides impactfulvegan.com, where can people follow you and find you on social media or online? And what are the next couple things that you're doing where people maybe can find you around the world?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. You can search my name, Robert Cheeke, with an E on the end, just like your face, with the E on the end. So Robert Cheeke, vegan bodybuilding and fitness. I have both those accounts on Facebook and Instagram and those various platforms. So yeah, look up Robert Cheeke and vegan bodybuilding and fitness. I also need to update my website because I keep booking speaking engagements everywhere. I mean, the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot.
I've got New England Veg Fest coming up this weekend, June 9th. I've got Bluegrass Veg Fest in Louisville, Kentucky, June 22nd, right before the book comes out. I'll be at Atlanta, Georgia Veg Fest in late August. I'll be at the Boston Veg Food Festival in late September. Nice. I'll be in Montreal in November. I'll likely be at the Reducitarian Summit in, I think it's October, in Dallas. And
you are all over the place.
I just came from Vancouver, BC a couple days ago, Winnipeg before that, DC and Dallas before that, LA before
if people start following you on social media and check your updated website, even in the impactfulvegan.com page, I saw some tour dates. Check it out. You can meet Robert in person. You can flex right alongside him, get a photo with that thumbs up, right?
Absolutely.
So please check him out. Robert, thank you so much for joining us today for this Forks Friday Live. Corey and I always love getting on here and sharing wonderful information. And we always love bringing on special guests who have a whole arsenal of extra expertise, information, life experience to share with everyone. I hope everyone who's here found this helpful. Before we go, Robert, we talked about a lot of things. I want to get even just super streamlined, and we're talking about the whole food plant-based diet. I think some people know, at least I want to know, because I want to follow you. If there was an example day of what Robert Cheeke might eat in the span of a day, could you just take us through a basic, maybe it could just be your favorites, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just so that we can know these are the foods that not only take care of us, but also make us impactful in so many other ways?
Yeah, absolutely. But first, I want to thank you, Stephen. And I see that book behind your head there. I see my New York Times bestseller, and I see my first book too. I want to acknowledge that and thank you for the thoughtfulness of giving those a shout out today. You are the man. I'm so grateful. And it's so cool to be here with Forks Over Knives, because that's literally what changed my life. I mean, I say that sincerely. Like, that was a turning point in my professional career and even in my nutritional lifestyle change. So these days, fruit, man, fruit for breakfast. Fruit. I can't even name all the fruits I have at home right now. I can't wait. It's
any fruit, all the fruit.
Yeah. Cherry season right now is unbelievable. And so I'm excited about that. I've got blueberries, I've got watermelon, I've got raspberries, strawberries, pineapple, all kinds of fruit. So I like to start my day pretty light with fruit. I do some snacks, like some little Lara bars. They're only like 4 ingredients. They're just basically fruits and nuts. As I sit here at my computer during the day, I had two bananas right before this call. Oh, and I've got oranges and tangerines and all that. So I'm big on, like, bananas for snacks, things that are easy, but they're filling, 120 calories per banana. Eat a couple of those. For lunch, it's something like a burrito bowl. I mean, I can't get enough of rice, beans, avocado, lettuce, tomato, salsa, mushrooms, peppers, pepperoncinis, tofu, whatever you want to put on it. That's incredible. I'll have more fruit as snacks, especially during these warmer months. Just hydrating, packed full of nutrition, sit outside in the backyard with the dogs and just eat some fruit. And I love it. It's also great for pre-workout energy. Yeah. And then I go to the gym, and then I come home and have something like international cuisine is my absolute favorite. And my wife makes a lot at home. So that could be something like a fried rice dish, or a pad thai dish, or plant-based sushi, or soup, or curry, or she made some sort of wraps yesterday. She just kind of made something up herself, didn't even follow a recipe from a book or anything. And it was incredible. These great plant-based wraps with avocado and all these mushrooms and vegetables inside. And it was great. And then, I obviously, on other days where I'm not eating fruit for breakfast, I'll have maybe oatmeal with walnuts and berries, or I'll have potatoes and yams and sweet potatoes. I had that yesterday. We had sweet potatoes, yams yesterday. So it rotates with some favorite staples and tofu in there for the extra protein and for personal preference and for the satiety. And
the foods that you're sharing are all foods that a lot of us already know about. And now there's confirmation for it. If you haven't known about this, if you don't know about the international cuisine that's out there, of course, you can always go to the Forks Over Knives website to check out some wonderful recipes and inspiration. But to know that the man himself, Robert Cheeke, is just diving into the world of whole plant foods. And this smile says it all, right? That energy is beaming. I think this has been a wonderful time. Robert, if there's any way to sign off, I think we have to do the patented Robert Cheeke muscle and thumbs up, as I thank everyone for joining us on this Forks Friday Live. We hope to see you next Friday and on Fridays beyond. Have a strong, impactful day, everyone. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Stephen. It's been my pleasure.